to week 34. There are only 6 weeks left until my due date, but there's only 5 weeks left until I'm induced, and things are starting to get a little terrifying. At 34 weeks, baby is as big as a butternut squash. Baby's recognizing and reacting to simple songs if you sing them. At less than 2 months to go, baby weighs in at about 4.2 to 5.8 pounds and measures about 17.2 to 18.7 inches. Baby can now hear you and is picking up on language. Watch what you say. Your curious baby is listening in on your conversations. My body at 34 weeks. Blurry vision created by a combination of hormones, fluid buildup, and lack of sleep. Fatigue. Now, if only you could sleep at night. Constipation and hemorrhoids. Swollen ankles and feet. As baby prepares for arrival, you might feel pressure down in your pelvis and even more peeing. Week 34 still hasn't been too bad. I'm still crossing my fingers that I don't get any really wicked symptoms close to the end, but I guess we'll see. I did have a doctor's appointment in week 34, and it was just a general appointment. I talked to them about being induced, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And also I talked to them about the size of the baby, which I'll also cover in a little bit. However, as far as my symptoms go, they've been pretty much persistent. I ended up peeing and sneezing again this week at some point, which is just awesome. That's just one of my favorites, right? I mean, who doesn't like that? I am also very exhausted, very fatigued all the time, but that's nothing different than usual. I have sleeping disorders like I've mentioned before, and I'm just sleepy all the time. I can't do a whole lot. I wear a Fitbit. I've done some sleep studies, and I really only get about 2 to 4 hours, 4 hours on a good night of sleep. And that could be if I could go to bed at 8 at night and get out of bed at 8 in the morning, but in that 12-hour period, I will only sleep for 2 to 4 hours of that, and that is every single night of my life. I'm not swollen in any places at all. My ankles aren't swollen, my feet aren't swollen. I'm not having any issues with that, which is really good. I am having headaches, which kind of suck, but we've also been having a lot of storms, like thunderstorms, and because of the pressure, I get a lot of headaches and migraines, so it could be related to that. Baby is still incredibly active, like wickedly active all day. I don't think it sleeps. The doctor says that the baby should sleep 90% of the day or so, but it's like, there's no way. This child does not sleep. It's probably like me and it just doesn't sleep. My hips still hurt, they still pop, but they are not nearly as bad as my pelvic or my pubic bone. It has basically separated from itself and it pops. If I roll over in bed, when I go to stand up, it actually makes this horrifically loud popping sound and it hurts very bad. So I get to put up with that for the next couple of weeks, but you know, it'll all be worth it in the end, so that's all that matters. I haven't been having too much of an issue with my boobs leaking. Like, they have been leaking this whole time and they have not stopped, but it's been kind of at a controllable rate. But this morning, they actually leaked so badly while I was at work that they couldn't, like, it couldn't even absorb into the pad quick enough. It was like running down my body. It was so gross and it was a lot. So I'm not really sure what the deal with that is, but I think my one side here is starting to get engorged again, and it's starting to hurt and starting to bruise, kind of like it did a couple weeks ago. As far as the doctor's visit that I had, I discussed with my doctor about being induced. Now, I do not want to be induced. I talked about that in my last video. Absolutely in no way do I want to be induced at all. I don't want to get any of the medication to be induced. I just would rather go naturally. However, I do understand if it's medically necessary. And I didn't really think it was medically necessary. If my blood pressure has been within an acceptable limit and there's no protein in my urine to show that I'm going into preeclampsia, why do I need to be induced early if my body's been fine? What my doctor said is that because I've suffered from chronic hypertension in the past, because of safety concerns, I have to deliver a week early, because if I go past 39 weeks, my chances of a stillborn baby significantly increase. They said I could show no signs of preeclampsia. My blood pressure doesn't even necessarily need to be high, but because I've had high blood pressure in the past, it could cause the baby to be stillborn. So although I really don't think that's going to happen, I'm not going to take the risk either. So if my doctor says I need to be induced, then I need to be induced, unfortunately. Now the other thing was, I do not want Pitocin. I don't know how my body's going to react to Pitocin. There's medications that I've reacted to very horribly to the point where I've almost lost my life due to certain vaccinations, reactions to the vaccination, reactions to different painkillers, just everything in general. Just the thought of something going in my body that has not been tested before scares me. So what our options are is, they said, depending on the doctor I see that day, they may possibly do a membrane sweep and send me home and then to come back later. They also said that some doctors will not do a membrane sweep because it could possibly rupture the amniotic sac and then it could cause problems. However, when it's at 39 weeks or later, they're not really concerned about breaking the amniotic sac, so they don't really know whether or not they'll be able to do that for me because I'll already be 39 weeks, so I don't know, it's confusing. So my other options were to use Cervidil, which they would insert internally and wait about 4 hours to see if it kicks in. That's one option. Another option was, and I don't remember exactly what it was called, but it was basically kind of like a tube that goes internally, and they said that takes up to 12 hours to work. So the way that that would go is, I would go into the hospital at night, I would have this thing inserted, I have no idea, it would just be inserted, and I would spend the night at the hospital, and then in the morning, if I wasn't contracting and I wasn't going into active labor, then they would need to induce me with Pitocin. The other option is where they use the balloon to dilate your cervix. If you're already dilating, they can try to dilate it more by blowing up a balloon that just kind of stretches everything out and sounds really, really, really awful, but I will do it if I do not want to get the Pitocin at all. So we will have to see what my options are when the time comes. It's obviously it's obviously too early to really say which option we're going to have. And in all reality, I could technically go naturally. I could go early. I might not even have to be induced. So I'm really not sure. It's just going to be a matter of time until we find out. A couple more weeks and then we should know. Now, with the way I've been going, things seem to be going okay so far with the baby, so I'm not scheduled for any more ultrasounds. However, one thing that was slightly concerning that I might get sent back for an ultrasound for later is that in the last ultrasound I had, they told me that the baby was about 2.5 pounds overweight. It was in the 95th percentile for overall weight, and it just seemed really, really large. Now, at my doctor's appointment that I just had, my uterus is measuring 3 weeks behind. So I'm not really understanding what the whole process is, but if the baby's measuring 3 to 4 weeks ahead and my uterus is measuring 3 weeks behind, then the baby has 6 or 7 weeks of less room in there. Like, my uterus is not growing large enough to support the size of the baby. And they said everything sounds and looks okay, but I feel like the baby's just really, really cramped in there and that I should be a lot larger than I already am. And with that in mind, I actually just got to view my maternity pictures, and you can't even really tell I'm pregnant in some of them. Like, my bump was so small, you can't really even tell. It's crazy. So my belly actually has not grown since last week. It might have gone up maybe 1/2 inch at most, but it really has not grown at all since last week. And with that being said, it didn't grow from the week before that either. When they measured my uterus, it was the same as it was 2 weeks ago. So it has not grown in 2 weeks now. And so I don't know what that means for the baby. I don't know if that means the baby isn't growing also, or if the baby's growing bigger and my body's just not coping to the new size of the baby. I really have no idea. I am pretty much to the point where I've kind of had enough. Like, it's not that bad. In all honesty, being pregnant is really not bad at all. but I'm kind of to the point where now I'm having so much pressure everywhere. I'm having actual contractions. The baby is constantly moving, constantly kicking my ribs, constantly hitting my, I don't know, everything. I'm kind of just ready now for the baby to come and for my body to go back to normal. I don't know, I feel like waiting 40 weeks is just so long, and now I'm down to the final 5 and we're just ready, I think. We're just ready for it to be done. We're ready to have our baby here, and yeah, I mean, I'm just ready to go back to normal, be able to do things that I could do. It's hard to even just bend down and pick something up off the floor. And I had my baby shower over the weekend, and just bending over to pick up a present to open was exhausting. Like, it was physically exhausting to open those presents just because I couldn't move like I normally move. I don't think I have much more about week 34. I hope that we have more information in week 35, but I don't have a doctor's appointment or anything in week 35, so it should be pretty much the same as it is now, unless for some reason some weird things start happening, which is always entirely possible. One thing to look out for is I will be doing a video of my baby shower. I'll do a baby shower haul. I've been asked a couple of times to do that, and it was always on my list of things to do from the beginning. I'll just go through everything I got. And also on my personal channel, if you check that out, I'll be doing unboxings of pretty much everything I got, and I'll also be doing reviews of a lot of the items. So if you like anything I got, or you just want reviews on different products, definitely go check out my personal channel because all of that will be up there as well. So for now, that's all. Don't forget to like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, find us on Facebook, and I will see you next week. Bye!